have Miriam and Vishniac with the continued relevancy of the voting rights.
All right.
So, hi. As was said, my name is Miriam Vishniac. I graduated in 2010 with a degree in biochemistry. Since then, I've gotten involved in politics and worked with the House Judiciary Committee. And I'm here to talk to you about the Voting Rights Act and how it affects everyone regardless of race or political party. So, quick history. If you don't know what it is, I've got you covered. The VRA did many different things. The most important for this discussion is it set up a system to monitor states to make sure they weren't cutting out minority votes. And basically, the thing that we're talking about today is the fact that districts would be drawn to discount the minority vote. So the minority community could be split up into like 10 different districts that are 1% of those districts. The Supreme Court, last summer, more recent history, threw out an entire section of the Voting Rights Act. This was the section that contained the formula for which states had to have every voting change pre-approved by the Department of Justice because of a serious history of racial prejudice. All the DOJ needed to do to veto a voting law was to show that the effect would be harmful to minority communities. After this Supreme Court decision, the only way to get rid of a law is to prove that the intent was to harm minority communities. So if that sounds a lot harder to you, congratulations, you're correct. So why should we care? Okay, a majority of people here know that making sure minority communities have a voice in government is kind of important. What we can all agree is that this Congress is insane. It hasn't been able to do anything. It has been the least productive Congress of all time, ever, period. Part of the reason that that is true and that it's been really hard to manage people, feel bad for Boehner just a little bit, maybe, is that these people are unwilling to work together because they know they'll get voted back in no matter what. No matter what we do, if they have the right letter after their name, they know that people will vote them back in again. There's no incentive to work together, so nothing's getting passed. There's no budget, which is bad for the economy, which is bad for everyone. Here are some examples. These are real districts. This is North Carolina. So one of the crazy things is that out of the 435 members of the House, 50 seats are competitive right now. 50 out of 435. So the Voting Rights Act doesn't fix everything, but it is a tool in the arsenal of ways to combat intense gerrymandering. Instead of entirely Republican districts, you get districts that are much more competitive when minority voices are included. And a good example of this, that's Pennsylvania. A good example of what I'm talking about is Texas. And it also works the other way around, before you think that it only ever works on that side. In Florida, when you include Cuban American voices, you end up with districts that are much more competitive instead of being fully Democratic. So it gives some order to the process of redistricting, which we badly need, and everyone benefits from. When members of Congress are held accountable, they are willing and able to get a lot more done. So, the Voting Rights Act, I reiterate, does not fix everything. It is not the be-all and end-all for fixing this redistricting process. It's not going to make everything suddenly make sense. But it's an important tool, and the fact that the Supreme Court gutted it is a real problem. So that's why we need what's called the Voting Rights Amendment Act, which is the fix for it. It is what we need to pass if we want to get this going again. The only way to ensure accountable government, however, is to vote in every election for every candidate, and I can tell you that every vote absolutely counts. In Virginia, the AG, Attorney General candidate, won by 165 votes out of millions of votes cast. And Virginia was a place that was never thought of as competitive for a really long time. So before you think it doesn't matter, it does, actually. So if you come away from this talk remembering anything, you can forget everything else, but try not to. It's that the Voting Rights Act is important, it needs to be fixed, and if you're not registered to vote, you need to go right now. Like seriously, just leave the room and get online and find a place that you can register online to vote. Some states allow it. It's so, so, so important, and it's the only way to make people accountable to their members and their constituents. So thank you so much.